Hey, welcome back, weirdos. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be what I think is the final installment in my ombre series. The mani on my left hand was my classic baby boomer with a tap ombre over dip liquids. I also recently did an ombre using gel liquids and the press, or I don't know, some kind of technique. I'll leave both those videos in a playlist, either up in the cards or down in the box. Today we're going to do a scrub ombre, and again, this will be using dip liquids with dip powder. Super duper easy. There is a little learning curve, as like there is for everything, so I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm going to get started by mixing up my dip powder. You want to make sure your powders are always nice and light and fluffy when you dip. I'm going to dip out my solid nails first before I get into the ombre, but stirring it up is going to make sure that when you dip your nail into the dip powder, it's not dense, because that can create a little ledge or lumps or bumps or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and get dipped out, and while I do that, we're going to chat about a couple of things before I get into the ombre. First and foremost, all of the products that I'm using in this video are going to be linked down below per usual. Don't forget to check out my little discount section. I have a bunch of discount codes. Some are affiliate, some are not. Everything is labeled, so you can go check that out if you want to save yourself a little money if you're picking up anything that I'm using today. Also, check out my Amazon storefront. Most of the tools that I use are located in my Amazon storefront. You'll find the ombre brushes that I use, some other nail tools, the orange wood sticks, all that kind of stuff down in the Amazon storefront. Also wanted to make sure that you guys knew how much I appreciated each and every one of you. If you heard about and took part in the event that I did for Safe Space, the schmaffle as I call it, we were able to raise over $5,600 for Safe Space that goes directly to survivors of domestic violence, which I'm so incredibly happy about. Thank you guys so much for all your support, all your encouragement, all your donations and contributions. It feels literally incredible to know that we have made a difference, and that's more than I could have ever asked for. So thank you so much for that. And speaking of Safe Space, if you guys are familiar with Candi Skincare, who makes amazing cuticle oil amongst millions of other things, but cuticle oil is something that I have to use all the time, of course, because I do my nails constantly. Her and I collabed on a scent for cuticle oil many moons ago. I'm talking years. And it's called #HotMessMarla, which is so appropriate. And it smells like the most amazing rainbow sherbet ever. So perfect for like spring into summertime especially. You're not supposed to eat it, even though it's completely devour worthy. Anyway, so her and I have decided that for the month of April, proceeds from the Hot Mess Marla cuticle oil, be it in a pen or a bottle or whatever, and I think soon she's adding a lip balm and a body butter. So part of the proceeds from those are going to be also donated to Safe Space, and we're going to switch up the benefiting organization every single month depending on the awareness for that month. So if you are into cuticle oil, or if you want to do something that is going to benefit something bigger, which I know a lot of you are super into, which I love with my whole entire heart, that's a great way to do it without spending a whole lot of money. So there's that. So I've gotten my first coat of that gorgeous blue Tiff from Revel. Got that first coat on. I'm going to do one more coat just to build up the opacity and the strength on my natural nail. That's right, I have nothing on my natural nail. I did not even use peel base, which was a little scary because I haven't really done that in a long time. But I knew these colors were going to go beautifully together. I knew I was going to love this mani. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to keep it on for a little bit. So I'm going to get the second dip on, build that up. I'm going to clear a cap, maybe. I may do that at the end. And then I'm going to show you how to do the literal easiest ombre ever with dip liquids. I still think the ombre with the gel liquids, the press ombre, is the easiest out of the three techniques, if you will. This one, if you're a dip liquids person, this one is super easy, but timing is kind of key. So I'm going to walk you through that here in a bit. I'm going to touch on something real quick that I've had a lot of questions about in the recent past. You may notice that when I dip my finger into the dip jar, sometimes I do 2 dips to 3 dips, with the same finger on the same coat, and I had a lot of people asking me why I double dip or triple dip. And the reason is really quite simple. I like to make sure I don't have any wet spots on my nail, because if you go to dust off excess and your nail is somewhat wet, as in the powder to liquid ratio is not even, there's more liquid than there is powder, you could ruin your dust brush, which no one wants to do. Most dust brushes that I use, at least, are not acetone friendly, and it's insanely difficult to clean acrylic and glue out of a brush without using acetone. So I like to make sure to avoid that. But also, if you go to dust off excess and you're a scrubby brush person, which I can be at times, especially with clear dip powder, you don't want to risk taking off some of that wet product that hasn't set yet. So I just make sure my nail is completely dry with powder before I move on and dust off excess. That is why I may do 2 to 3 dips, same finger, same coat, same jar. Okay, so let's get into this ombre. I'm gonna apply the base like I normally would and dip into the white. You do need to dip into the lightest shade you're ombreing with. That's gonna be the base for your ombre. And we're essentially going to be staining this base color with the other color. So you do need kind of to use a light and a dark in order to properly stain it and get that ombre look. But the way we're going to do this, it's going to create the nicest blend. I find this to be the easiest way to get that really smooth blended ombre look. Tap ombre can go wrong real quick if you're not incredibly precise with your powder placement per se. It could just take a turn, and I'm sure most of you have experienced that before. I know I have. But this, I think, is super easy to get that really seamless blend. Once I have the base dipped, I'm going to clean up my cuticle just like I normally would. You want to make sure this sits for a few seconds. You don't want to go in when this is super wet. That's why I'm also double dipping here to make sure it's completely absorbed with powder. Then I'm going to take that blue and an eyeshadow brush, and I'm going to scrub, and I am applying pressure, a good bit of pressure, and this is why you want to make sure that base color is completely set. I'm going to scrub in this blue, essentially staining the white, and I'm going to do 2 to 3 coats of this, and you can do 2 to 3 to 4, however many you think you need in order to get the pigment payoff that you want. This is going to definitely take a little bit of time. As you can see, I'm scrubbing for a hot minute. You're going to do this the first time you try, and you may not see a result immediately. You may have to scrub for a little bit depending on the pigment of the powders. And also, after doing 2 dips of this, 3 dips of this, you're going to see that blend more and more. So don't get frustrated if you're scrubbing your heart out and you're not seeing the results that you think you need, because you will get there. It just takes patience. Even though this takes a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, a little bit of elbow grease, scrubbing this pigment into the lighter color. Again, I think this is one of the easier techniques to ombre with, especially with your non-dominant hand. I'm right-handed. I'm doing this on my right hand, and it's exponentially easier for me, at least, to do the scrub ombre technique with my non-dominant hand than it is to do the tap ombre method. So if you have never done an ombre before and you are thinking that you want to, I'm going to highly advise that you watch my other ombre video and see which one you think suits your fancy. Try them both and see which one you prefer. So once I finished up that round of dip, I am applying base to the nail one more time, dipping into that white dip powder again, and I'm using a semi-milky white, so it's not like a very pigmented stark white dip powder. I prefer a milkier white. I think it just plays nicer with other colors you're scrubbing on top of it. And again, scrubbing that color into that white, and the blend is now coming through. It's really the second coat, you can really see it. This is one of those trust the process type techniques, and I am obsessed with the way this blended. This was also kind of a recreate of a mani that I did many moons ago. I think I called it Ice Ombre. I don't know why I'm like this. I'll leave a picture here somewhere. It's literally from about 3 years ago, and I haven't done this kind of an ombre really since then, especially with these colors specifically. And I did not use the same ones in that photo. I don't even know if there's a video. I think it was one of my very first videos that I did, and it was horribly done. I don't know if it still exists in the universe. I may have privatized it because it was literally that bad. Not the technique per se, just the video quality, because I had no idea what I was doing 3 years ago. I've only been doing YouTube for 3 years. Oh my gosh, it's been 3 years. I can't even believe that. The time has flown. So anyway, I'm going to continue with this. I'm going to get this ombre finished up, and then we're going to clear cat. I would highly advise you do some sort of a clear cat, if not over the entire manicure, over the 2 ombre nails, because when you go to file and buff, you don't want to take away pigment and ruin that ombre. So I'm going to do a coat of clear. I'm using dip powder clear as opposed to gel clear. You can cap in gel if you're more comfortable doing that, but I'm going to use the clear dip powder. Then we're going to activate. I'm going to go ahead and file and buff off camera. I will leave my filing and buffing video down in the box or up in the cards if you want to reference how I do my whole filing and buffing routine. I actually have 2 videos. One is strictly hand file, and one is a combo hand file and e-file. So whichever way you feel like you want to go with that, they will both be available to you. And I will come back with a finished look. So I went ahead and threw on a gel top coat, totally optional. You can use dip powder top coat if you want. Finishing up with my Hot Mess Cuticle oil, and this is the finished look. I could not be happier with the way this came out. You guys will have to let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I so appreciate you spending a little bit of your day with me. I hope you have an outstanding rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Love you, bye.